Julia Spencer is a real estate investor with over 25 years' experience who owns multiple investment properties. She's a single mother of two who moved to the U.S. in 1993 with only $20 in her pocket. She currently holds an MBA. Julia Spencer is neither a realtor nor an attorney, and the contents of this recording are only her opinions. Get her free guide to investing at juliamspencer.com. I'm your host, Dr. Steve G. Jones, multimillionaire and hypnotherapist. My website is stevegjones.com. Module 11, Fixing Real Estate. Julia, a lot of people get stuff. They just go out and get stuff. They buy real estate because either it's cheap or they think they got a good deal on it or they think they had it all figured out. And lo and behold, something's not quite right. Maybe there's some structural damage they didn't know about, or maybe their life situation has changed and they've got to liquidate, they've got to sell that property, they've got to undo what they've done. Now, I know those are only two of the many, many types of things that can go wrong with this because, hey, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. And I want to know, what do you do when you've made a real estate purchasing blunder? How do you fix that? So I want you to answer that for us. Also tell us some of the things that we might do wrong, some of the blunders we might make so we can avoid them.
I'll be glad to. I think I am the poster child for doing real estate blunders. And I've learned my lesson over the years, most definitely in financial aspects, in time wasted, and in basically really screwing up really badly and still figuring out some way to get out of it. And I would love to talk about some of the examples, but there is going to be a time, especially when you get into real estate tax lien foreclosures, which are the very cheap junk properties that you can buy, that you're going to be buying junk. And then all of a sudden, the problem with that is, okay, I bought junk, I guess I'll just have junk sitting around. I'll just put it in my garage and be done with it. That's going to be a problem because even though you purchase junk, guess what? You still have to pay taxes on that junk every year because you're now the legitimate owner. And the tax authorities don't care if it's junk or not. They want their money. And they're going to come after you for it because you bought it. You're responsible for it. So how do you get rid of those kinds of things? So I want to start with some of the blunders that I have made over the years. And some of them seem in hindsight a little bit comical, but at the time it wasn't very funny at all. For example, one time I purchased a property which I thought was a duplex. I thought it was two apartments that were on top of each other. It looked really nice. I looked at the property card on the county website before I purchased it. It was right next to a church. It was in a downtown area of Georgia City. That wasn't a very bad city, wasn't a really bad area. And I was like, oh, great. I have two apartments and I'm going to collect all kinds of rent and it's going to be great. And I purchased it for very cheap. Well, it came out to be that I didn't actually purchase that particular house, or let's say I purchased half of the house. At some point, decades ago, some surveyor had made some really bad adjustments, made some measurements, really bad measurements on the lot, and the lot was actually split in half. In other words, the house that I thought I had purchased, pretty much half of that house, if you split and put a knife to it and cut it in half, belonged and was on the lot that I bought. The other half was on somebody else's lot. Now, you can't really split a house and use half of it, so there's a big problem. I should have done my homework. I should have looked at the deeds. I should have seen that the property changed hands a gazillion times in the last 2 decades, mostly between family members of the same family clan, which belonged to whoever owned the church that was 2 lots next to it. The parking lot was part of it at some point, and it got split up. It was a big mess. It was basically a big mess. Nobody knew where the property lines were, not even the surveyors at the surveyor's office. I actually had to go and look at Google Maps to see where the line was, and look at the pin on the ground, and actually walk with my feet down a certain distance and a certain degree to figure out where the lot was. And even then, I could never figure it out. So I finally was like, all right, that's it. I got to get rid of this property because there's nothing I can do with this. Do I own the church parking lot? Do I own part of this property, this house, this duplex? And even so, somebody from the church was renting it to some people from the church. I can't really reasonably kick out somebody that's lived there for possibly 10 years. There's just a lot of trouble. So what did I do with that kind of property? Well, one of the things that you can do, which is actually what I ended up doing, is first I went to the church officials, because for some reason, according to the deeds, they were involved some way. And I talked to the pastor, and this is in a very African-American neighborhood of the city, and me being a 20-something-year-old white girl is walking into the church saying, hey, would you give me this lot, by the way, that you've been using for 20 years? And they pretty much thought, I was out of my mind. They were going to just squarely kick me out of their church office, and I was glad if they weren't going to call any police on me. So that's how that meeting went. After that, I sent them a couple of notices and asked them to please come to some sort of agreement with me on this lot that I purchased. And by the way, here's my sheriff's deed. Of course, the county made it all official. They gave me a sheriff's deed for this lot that nobody knew where it was. And so what do? I got my first tax bill. It was a year later. So instead of having it sit there and paying $200 a year or $300 in taxes, what do I do with the slide? I can't use it. I can't do anything with it. In that particular case, I ended up looking at the government website where the property cards were and getting the amount of...
For your free guide to real estate investing, visit juliamspencer.com.